Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller, and today my guest is Jeff Borello from Andromeda Tech Solutions. So, Jeff, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Brent. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, great. So, Jeff, kind of introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about you and kind of your career journey to becoming CEO of Andromeda.
Yeah, so as obviously you said, Jeff Borello, the CEO of and a co-founder of Andromeda Technology Solutions. We are a managed IT service company out of a suburb of Chicago. We've been doing this 30 years. We just celebrated our 30-year anniversary in October.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was very exciting. We brought
Not
all
many
our...
people can say that.
It's not many people are that old, as it turns out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a nice blowout. We brought we have about 5 or 6 people that work out of state. We brought them in. We had a nice party, and it was awesome. So, but 30 years ago, myself and my 2 co-founders worked all at the same place right down the street from where I am now, and it was a high-tech data acquisition company. So they built gear for taking data from engine test stands and jet engine test stands. So, but we worked hard there. We worked 60, 70 hours a week. Great place to work, but they were always struggling. So one day, one of us walked in. There's a little dispute on whose idea it was. But I'm on the podcast, so I get to say it was mine. Said, listen, if we're going to work this hard, we should do something for ourselves. And at the time, we were kind of taking care of the network there at that office. Well, let's start a computer company, right? Oh, this was 30 years ago. If you wanted, to build a business plan, you had to drive to the store and get a box piece of software, which we did, and we built our business plan. That unfortunately has gotten lost over the years. No, well, and I wish I had it because it was so far off. I think we had 80 or 90% of our business was going to come from home users. In our 30-year history, we've had 1 home user. Yeah. So
so you were right on the money.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But so we started real slow. We did it. It was all bootstrapped, right? So we still kept our full-time jobs. We would take long lunches. We would work a lot of after hours. And slowly over time, we got a little momentum going, picked up our first few customers, and we're able to keep doing that for a while. And then eventually I stayed part-time at the job and did Andromeda part-time. And then every one of the other 2 guys each followed suit. I went full-time, and then eventually another guy joined me until all 3 of us were working full-time. And we've grown it up over the years. There's 36 people here now, and we're having a good time. All 3 co-founders are still here, still in the trenches day to day. And as we like to say, we haven't killed each other yet. So it's been a good ride.
I love it. And so your other 2 co-founders, so how do you guys divvy up the work, right? So you're the CEO, right? And so do you have one that's much more tech, one is more ops? Like how did you guys divvy that up?
Yeah, it's certainly changed over the years. And matter of fact, somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago, said, how did you decide who was going to be the CEO? And I don't know that we had a big discussion on it. I was just always kind of the more type A, high-driven guy. So I think I just sort of grabbed the baton and ran with it. And we have a nice balance, right? I'm very much a very driven, confrontational guy. If we had 3 of those, it'd be a disaster, right? But we're all very balanced. We know where our strengths and weaknesses are, and we let each guy do his thing. Over the years, we've done some various things where we've acquired some other companies. We've gotten, we've done IT, we've done business telephone systems. We did websites for a while. So for a while, it was easy to split that up. Now, since then, we've spun all that back out, and we're back to just being an IT company and really focusing on that. So one of the things we did was one of my co-founders, we just made him the COO earlier this year, and we put all the operational stuff under him, and then divvied up my role a little bit to let me get more in the CEO role. So it's ever changing, which is part of what makes it fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right. And it's really nice because you almost have a built-in board by having 2 founders, like an advisory board. So it's fantastic, right? Especially if you guys all complement each other, right? Which is rare. Yeah. Right? Like you said, if you all had the same personality, there'd be a lot of butting heads.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So tell me, over the 30 years, how managed IT has changed.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot. There's certain pieces of it that haven't changed at all, right? From the day we started the company, our foundation was, we're here to take care of people, right? Technology is tough. IT is tough. Computers don't always do what you want them to do. So when we started the company, it was always about
that.
Yeah. was what can we do to make people's lives better? And that's kept with us through the 30 years and now. And it shows up in our core purpose that we talk to our staff about, and it's helping people succeed. Some of it, so much has changed, so much has stayed the same. So at that foundational level, it's exactly the same. Stuff doesn't always work. You need to help people. And every 5 years, somebody comes out with a new technology that says, it's going to make IT just work, and it's going to make IT people obsolete, and it gets worse and worse.
Right. There's no such thing.
Yeah. And now, you get things introduced like cloud and AI, and you start trying to get all these systems to share data, and it's gotten actually a lot more complex in a lot of ways. So that's been a pretty big change. But the biggest change in probably the last 5 or 6 years is just the need for more security, right? Security, security, security. That's all we talk about now.
Like, this is like we're reading each other's minds. Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's really been the biggest change. And it's really made the IT managed service provider industry, we're a target. There's a big bullseye on our back, right? Because if you can get into the managed service provider, it's a gateway to hundreds of clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's changed the landscape. It used to be, you'd have some things to worry about, but that's a pretty big fear now when you wake up every day and just say, is today the day that something's going to come up? And it does every day.
Well, with the DDoS attacks, the ransomware, I can't imagine. So do you do the cybersecurity internally? Do you partner with someone? You have a trusted partner? How do you handle that? Because that's an ever evolving full-time gig in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure. So we do it up to a point, right? There's a level at which the managed service provider has to provide it. And we do so, making sure there's good layered security on all the devices and make sure the firewall's locked down. There's all that. Now, at some point, if there's an incident or if somebody really needs a forensic analysis or something like that, then we stop and we have people that we partner up with. But there's a line in there, and there are some MSPs that try to do both. But like you said, at some point you get to a level with the cybersecurity, and it really needs a dedicated company that's all they do. And so we walk that line and try to find the balance that we want to provide what we want to provide and not too much more.
Yeah. And as all of our listeners, they know I'm a big fan and a big proponent of glass half full, the AI opportunity. But what Jeff's talking about is the scarier part of AI. When you get the bad actors out there and you give them tools like AI, it does make your job and the cybersecurity partners you have, their job, that much more difficult. How do you see that evolving over the next couple of years?
The AI in regard to just how it's going to affect security, particularly?
Yeah, because I'm going to get to the good stuff where you think the good stuff is, but people have to know that this is the scarier part, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you already take bad actors who are already, there's people this is their full-time job, right? There's entire businesses that are just filled with people trying to hack into things, right? And they have pretty good tools as it is. Now you give them some AI built tools or AI doing some of that work. Now, it's one thing that you're trying to combat a person, but now you're trying to combat an AI, and it's just going to completely change the landscape. I think the preventative measures need to get a lot better. If an AI gets into your system, it's going to run rampant faster than you could even think about shutting it down. So it just really, you got to rethink the approach a little bit to, we're no longer trying to combat a human. We're now trying to combat a computer, and it changes things around a lot. We either talk about it a lot or we don't talk about it at all. We can't decide which. It's just a very scary concept for sure.
Jeff, you back?
I am.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Something picked up. I don't know what happened, but it's okay. It'll stitch it right together. So
give the editing guy something to do.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Perfect. Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit, because I totally got exactly what you're saying. And I think that we're going to have some cybersecurity experts to dive into those pieces. Not really the core, like you said, the core of your business, you take it up to a certain point. But tell me a little bit about, as you look down the road, about what you're seeing with AI data and automation in the industry, right? How's it going to affect managed IT services? How is it going to affect some of your clients? And where do you see the opportunities and the challenges, if there are?
Yeah, so I think I'm one of the guys on the other side of the fence on this a little bit. I think the AI hype is a little bit ahead of the reality. I think the ChatGPT, amazing at writing content, right? If you want it to write something or edit something, it does a lot of amazing things, don't get me wrong. But I do think the hype's a little ahead of it. So I think part of the challenge is trying to figure out where it can help and help well, right? It could get in there and screw all kinds of things up. So we absolutely talk about this at every meeting we have. It's like, okay, where's automation coming into play? And for us, it's probably more on the automation side than the AI right now. Just finding repetitive tasks that do not need a human that the automation can take care of. It solves the problem faster for the customer. It obviously takes some burden off of our team. So there's some absolutely advantages I think that you'll see there. And eventually the AI will start doing some of that. But right now, because we tend to be a little bit more cutting edge and a little less bleeding edge, is we will tend to not pick up things right away. We want to make sure they've kind of been vetted out. It's a solid process. We don't want to put something in there that's going to introduce more problems.
Right. Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think I get that from a lot of areas. And for your area, I think you're kind of spot on, right? Where people are struggling right now, other founders and CEOs are, they're trying to figure out, like, how do I introduce it, right? How do I introduce automation, right, for efficiencies? Where do I start with some of these AI tools? And you're kind of in a very unique spot, in my opinion, right? And managing someone's complete, IT infrastructure. And so when a client, do you have clients coming to you now asking you that question? Are they, hey, Jeff, where do we start? Like, where should we do this? And, do you envision Andromeda having some sort of, coaching roadmap or something like that, right? Of how to introduce it, because they're going to come to you by nature, right? You're a trusted partner, right? You manage their whole IT suite, and they're going to be lost, a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the challenges for us, because we are a people first organization, like we still have someone answers the phone, right? We do not have an automated attendant. So to put that automation in there, we always want to make sure that we're doing it in such a way that we're not disrupting the human aspect when people want it.
100%.
But, yeah. So we haven't had a lot of people come to us looking for guidance. We've had a few people coming out wanting to roll out Microsoft Copilot, which we've been very hesitant to let people do. I talk about this as much as I can.
Because a lot of people are probably going to ask, because we're so Microsoft heavy in a lot of our clients.
Right.
So yeah, I'd love to know what your thoughts on that is.
Yeah. So the catch with Copilot, there's Copilot that you can just get at from the internet. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Copilot that's embedded in with your Microsoft 365 system.
Yep.
So one of the things people don't realize, is if you don't have your security and file permissions and stuff set up 100% the way you want it, and somebody has access to Copilot and they ask it to go, hey, go find me Susie's salary. If Copilot has access to those files through your permissions, it'll go find it. So there's a lot of setup that needs to get done before you can just go deploy Copilot at your office, because it gets access to stuff that you don't know is out there, right?
Right.
So we've been very cautious about that, and we've been really trying to give people the precaution of slow down. You got to do the fundamentals first before you get to use the cool shiny tool, right?
Yeah.
But I think back to your original questions, we've absolutely talked about, at some point we're going to need to get into the consulting business of, again, this is all new. It's a great tool, but no one's going to have any idea how to use it, and they're going to need someone to guide them along that path. And I think that's absolutely an area that we could fill in.
Absolutely. And you're hitting on a couple key things that we hear over and over and over, right? Is, where do I start? How do I make sure that I feed it the right data as much as I can, but not the sensitive, not my proprietary IP stuff, right? Because again, they don't know the rules. It's just it's very similar to me when cloud started, right? When cloud started, and this is why I wanted to dig into that with you, because people are like, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm not just going to throw my stuff up into the cloud. But back then, we were talking about private and public clouds. Nobody knew what those terms were. I mean, I was knee deep in it too. So as a consultant, what are you seeing the very similar parallels?
Yeah. Now that you mentioned, that's exactly it, right? There was that whole, when cloud first came out, there was that whole, I am not putting my data up with Microsoft. I don't trust them. I want to know where it's at. I want to be able to see it. I was one of those guys. I said, no, I need servers down in the closet. I can go down, I can touch them. I know where my data's at, but that didn't last very long. And I think we'll see the same thing. I'm sure there's, as much as ChatGPT and AI is getting media attention, there's people out there that are like, I won't touch that thing. I'm afraid of it. I won't give it anything. So, and I think, you go back to the consulting role, the tools are great, but where the tools really get powerful, and in this case, I'm talking about ChatGPT, is when you can feed it the right questions and you really understand how to use it, what you can get out of it gets exponentially better. And I think there's a ton of space there for people to learn and then people to teach.
Yeah. And I say this, and this is just some food for thought as you start to build. We've had guests on where, they do a 6-week workshop of how to integrate it, right? Some of your clients, they probably don't need that level, right? That's an enterprise plan, right? But they probably need basically an execution or strategy roadmap, right? How to layer it in, just the same way you would have done back when you were embracing cloud, right?
Yep.
What I always think is you hit on such a key thing, and I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of it, because I know that people will come back to this podcast and they'll say, okay, how did Brent and Jeff cover the co-pilot part? But not only that, at a broader picture is, how do I make sure that I can gain those efficiencies, right? Like you think about just finding documents on a SharePoint site. Right now, I'm watching one of my clients. I was saying this to a podcaster the other day, watching them try to reorganize SharePoint without using an AI tool to go find that stuff in like that.
Yeah.
But it's because of the fear that you mentioned, right? And I want to help people understand how to do that the right way, which is, hey, we can use a tool and give it access to the public stuff, right? That or the internal stuff that everybody in the organization, without going to sensitive HR or sensitive sales material, right? All that stuff. That to me is the key to getting people to embrace it, because if we can answer that question simpler, right?
Yeah.
I think people would embrace it, because I really do think, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, this can be a game changer in efficiency just by getting rid of some menial tasks. And this is not a push on AI. This is, hey, how can I use it to grow my business faster? Because I know that I have limited hours in the day.
Yeah.
But if we don't answer those questions that you just said, I get the hesitancy. And if I'm the CEO or founder, I'm saying the same thing, like, whoa, like I'm not doing that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it goes back to the security, right? You have to have a security first mindset, and you start there. But then there's also that you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what it can help you do, right? There's that it's again, it's going to be a game-changing technology. There's no doubt about it. But we are so early on. And I think the people that, if it's not part of your business technology roadmap, you're going to get killed down the road. Right?
And that's what I was kind of asking. This is great, right? That you said that. If it's not part of your roadmap. So if you're coaching your clients, because again, I think you're going to wind up at like every managed IT company, because you're such an integral, trusted partner already. Yep. You're going to have to add this consultative party. And like we go back to the cloud was the same way. I remember struggling to coach my clients, right, in this way. And I think I think now that you've been through, I think the cloud, how you embrace that and the lessons you learn from that, I think can be applied to this AI in this way. How do you help your clients adopt it in the right way? And, to me, it's game changing. One, it's a new revenue stream, right? But two, it's a game changer in just building trust with your clients, because they're all struggling with this. You're hitting on some topics that I want to make sure that we call out, because I hear it over and over, right? When I'm doing podcasts or I'm working with my clients, they're all asking that same question you did.
Yeah.
Is how do I start with security mindset first, but not hold myself back?
Yeah. Well, and I think, and that's, you think about the role of the IT provider changing, right? Is you used to think of it, okay, something's broke, I need it fixed. That's what the IT department did, right? But really now part of it is we need to be part of that strategic discussion, because part of our goal at Andromeda is we want to be a business partner, not just a technology partner. And part of that is helping them run a better business. And part of that is going to be AI or whatever else we can help, right? I mean, anything we can do.
Right. It's not just AI, it's automation. It's the data play, the security play. Maybe that's the theme, right? You're becoming much more of, instead of an IT partner, you're right. You're becoming a trusted business partner, because everything's melding together. That's the way I see it. Do you see it that way?
Oh, absolutely. Just like you think about your accountant that way, your lawyer that way. And this has historically not been the case, right? Because the IT.
No. Yeah. Oh, that's our vendor, right? Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yeah. They're the geeks in the basement. We call them when we need them, but we don't want to talk to them otherwise. And so, one of the things we do with our clients is we want to meet with every client, at least once a year. And we'd really like to do it every quarter and just say, okay, where's the business going? What's changing? But we're struggling to get people to see us that way, because they still think of us as the IT guy who fixes stuff when it's broke. And it's just that's not the model that's going to get you your business where you want it to get to.
I couldn't agree with you more. So as you look down the road, the next 1 to 2 years, talk to me about how you see the landscape changing, right? Because I feel like, we talked about that melding together, but talk to me about like, how you see your industry in general, managed IT growing, right? And evolving. And then how do you see Andromeda playing in that space?
Yeah. So the managed service provider space has been a lot of consolidation these last couple of years. Just a ton of there's the venture capital firms out there throwing a lot of money and just scooping up a bunch of managed service providers. And I think that's in some regards has hurt the industry a little bit because they have a lot of money, but they don't really know how to run a managed service company. And we're seeing that we're seeing a lot of defection from, wow, I loved my IT company and now they got bought up and now I hate them. So, I think part of that is, I think that is part of the business model and there's a place for it, but I think there's other places where, a customer is not going to want to deal with that and they're going to want to deal with someone like us that's been around 30 years, but we're privately held. There's no debt. And we're there to serve them, not try to, get a big roll up going on with a bunch of money. So I think you're going to see some more differentiation, I think, between those kind of players and the other kind. And then other than that, I think you're going to, again, I think I hate to keep beating the dead horse, but it's security, right? It's as much as it is now, it's going to be even more so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So again, we don't make any decision here without a security discussion first. If we're going to add a new product, if we're going to change a process, it doesn't matter what the discussion is. Step one is always, how does this affect security? So I think that's just going to keep getting more and more and more. And then obviously we talked about the AI and automation is going to be the next big thing that the IT providers that figure out how to get the most out of that while not eliminating the people part of it, I think are going to really have some pretty big success.
Yeah, and for everybody listening, right, especially anybody that uses companies like Andromeda, the theme that we use is people think AI is going to replace people. I just don't see it that way. I think we talked about earlier, right, but before, is that they're assistants, they're digital assistants, they're digital co-pilots. They make whoever in your organization that much better and that much more efficient. But humans will be running AI for a long, long time to come. And I just feel like that's the mindset that founders and CEOs need to have is it's not to replace, it's to make more efficient and to either drive efficiencies or accelerate growth.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So Jeff, tell me a couple, one or two cool client stories that you guys have been helped, because I would imagine that over the 30 years, you guys have some really cool transformational stories or just neat client stories of how you've.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things we did a couple of years ago is we have clients in all kinds of industries, but we've really started to focus on the single industry of manufacturing. And so we've been talking to a lot of manufacturers, and we had a manufacturer sign on with us, but before we actually started execution, they were still with their old IT provider and they got a ransomware event, ransomware the whole manufacturing place. So they were just completely shut down. So they called us up and said, well, we don't want to do the cleanup. We don't want to remediate this with the old guys because obviously we're leaving them. So we sent our engineering team and they spent weeks and hours and days in there. And just, it was a massive effort. They brought some forensics people in to try to figure out what happened, but we were there to get them back up and running. And we have an amazing team here, specifically our engineering team, just went above and beyond. We had them partially functioning where they could at least start producing again in a few days a week. And then by 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we had them fully functional. And there was just a lot of stuff breaks when you got to reinstall and get new machines. But I was very proud of the effort the team did. And the client was very grateful that they were able to get up and running as fast as they were. So it was, that was a big win for us.
Yeah. In those cases, like, is it, hey, we have to work around the request, or do you see clients paying for the ransomware? Like, is it a combination of both?
We've seen both. So it wasn't a client of ours. It was, I don't know how we got involved. This was years and years ago that they actually did pay because they didn't have a backup, right? Their backup was failed or the ransomware got into the backup. I don't remember what the case was. But in that case, they needed to pay. In this case, no, they had a good backup. We knew they had a good backup. So we were able to go in and they replaced some of the hardware because they weren't confident that it wasn't still on there. Some of the other ones, we just reinstalled them from scratch. And it's like anything. It's like in some cases, it's the easiest way to do it is just pay them, but it just sends such a bad message of, come get me again, right? It's like, oh, you're willing to pay once? Let me get in there again. Yeah. So that's certainly never our preference at all.
Yeah, yeah, and you're hitting on a key piece, right? If you're not taking critical backups all the time, right, you
Yeah.
can't. There's no restore point, right? So
Yep. And so
no,
it's for everybody that's listening. The public service announcement is if you do not have a standalone cyber insurance policy for your business, as soon as you're done listening to this, call your insurance guy and get one, because that's an absolute requirement. Matter of fact, it's in our agreement with clients. We will not take on a client if they do not have a cyber insurance policy.
that is a good PSA, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we will make sure that is highlighted for
Yeah,
sure.
because you take all the precautions you want, you put all the security in you want, and it just takes one person to click on an email that they shouldn't have, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. As much as I hate to say that, but it is really true.
No, and they're going to get, again, but you just have people in foreign countries that they're going to sit there and do that.
All they do.
That's all they do, right?
Yeah.
And that's how they make their living, unfortunately. And it's a sad state of affairs, but it's the world we live in, and it's just part of doing business in today's landscape.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Jeff, first off, this is, you've already given me a ton of really good things, food for thought. I think other founders and CEOs are struggling with not only the AI roadmap, but the security piece is huge. The PSA that you just said, I think every business owner's going to look into that. Tell me a little bit about you guys personally. Is there anything you've done internally or you've done personally with AI or ChatGPT that you think is a neat story?
Yeah, cool. I'll give you one that I did and one that I saw an idea the other day that I haven't done yet. But so again, I think I mentioned this, but one of the big things to get the most out of ChatGPT is asking it the right questions, and the more detailed question you can ask it, the better it will give you information, right? So one of the things I have committed to this year is I am going to do a LinkedIn post every day, and I wrote a bunch of them from scratch, and then what I did was I said, ChatGPT, okay, here's 20 LinkedIn posts that I wrote. Now you know my style. Please give me 10 more on these various topics. And it pretty much gave me LinkedIn posts that looked like I wrote them. I couldn't tell the difference between those and the ones I wrote.
Absolutely.
Right. But again, the key there wasn't, I didn't say just give me 10 LinkedIn posts on these topics. I gave it my writing so it could mimic that. So that was pretty cool. The other thing I did the other day, which is a kind of a fun, so I've been using ChatGPT for probably a year and a half, maybe, I don't know. But I said, tell me everything you know about me as a person from what you've learned from and it gave me a bio on me. It knew we had a 30-year anniversary for the company because obviously I had asked it some questions about that. It knew we were having a party, and but it said, you're obviously, your team is very important. You're always trying to do the team. And but it basically gave me a bunch of information back on me of all the things it had learned over time. And it was spot on. Just spot on. It was just amazing.
Oh, it's great. And let me ask you a question along those lines. Within your own ChatGPT account, right, are they all different threads that it's knowing, or do you keep it inside one particular streamed chat?
No, I start a new thread for everything.
Okay. So that wasn't the case early on. If you wanted it to learn, you kind of had to keep it in a single thread. Now within your account, it does that. And that's what's amazing, right? Where you can, it learns so much about you. You're basically creating Jeff Borello AI.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
It knows my writing
assistant
style. Yeah, it knows my thinking a little, right? In certain ways, it's again, amazing and scary all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, here's a PSA, right, for other founders and CEOs watching this. What Jeff's talking about, right, is his digital co-pilot, digital assistant. Start to get your mindset around. And Martin Rowinski and I were talking about this yesterday, right? Good friend of mine that we've done some mutual podcasts. He said, start to elevate that thinking up to your chief of staff. If you had a chief of staff, right, and start to have the AI challenge you on things, because you want some pushback sometimes, right? So it gets your critical thinking going. And so, you can take that to not just do blog posts and stuff, but you can start to elevate, because the more it learns about you, it really does become, Jeff AI. And so anyway, that's just a little tidbit that we've been learning. Again, I'm learning every day by talking to guys like you, Jeff. It's fantastic. So let me ask you one more question that I always ask. Everybody's looking to grow their company, over the next 12 months, right? It's January, so it's probably an easy question to be asking right now. But if you could, hit your growth target or exceed it, what is if you can, and I could wave a magic wand for you and fix one thing to allow you to do that, what's that one thing that you think that might help you get over that?
Yeah, lead generation, right? 2024 was a terrible year for just getting quality leads in. I think that the election had something to do with it. I think it was just a funny year for that.
It was a funny year.
Yeah. You know, we have a great team. We have a great product. We deliver great service. We have a great, you know, we've been doing this 30 years, right? So we have a great story to tell. Our gentleman that goes out and does the sales interactions with the customer, he's been here 20 plus years. He's a shareholder. He's technical. Yeah. If we can get him in front of the right people, we're here to help a lot of people and we can close a lot of deals and the growth would be unstoppable. Now we don't want to grow 30% a year because that causes chaos. So controlled growth for us, you know, I think as I mentioned, we're very focused on the manufacturing industry. So for us, just generating, we don't need a lot. It's, you know, you get 5-6 good manufacturing leads a month and we can pick and choose the ones that are going to be good partners with us. And sky's the limit. It'll be a really fun 2025.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Jeff, for anybody that, especially in the manufacturing industry, but I know you cross a lot of industries, but anybody wants to get in touch with you about Andromeda, right? We'll put all the links below when the podcast goes live. But until then, can you tell anybody about how to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm on LinkedIn, Jeff Borello at Andromeda is pretty easy to find. Our website is andromeda-tech-solutions.com. So you can always find us there. And again, if you want to talk to me, think I can help you, I'm always available to help. That's what I'm here for. If you got some questions you need answered, you're not sure, your IT provider's maybe not doing the right thing, hit me up. Track me down on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way, and I'd love to help.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, we'll make sure that we highlight that for sure. Jeff, it has been an absolute pleasure. I love these conversations. And like I said, our podcast, our goal on Future Proof is to talk about, you know, the next 1 to 3 years and how we can help founders and CEOs navigate those waters quicker, faster, and better. But like I said, it doesn't happen without talking to smart folks like you. So thank you for spending time with us, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian. It was a great conversation.
Awesome. Well, till our next episode, thanks, everybody.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.